giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Well, hey there, and welcome back to another episode. This one is, it's one of those episodes that as much as I'm recording it for you, I'm also recording it for myself. So we're going to call this one, just how committed are you? And we all talk about being committed. You know, I've even seen where they'll ask you, or other coaches will be like, how committed are you to doing this? And it's like, yes, 100%. We're off the charts. We're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. But really, what does that mean? What does being committed actually mean? Well, here's the deal. I'm being tested this week. And don't get me wrong, I'm the one testing myself. See, several months ago, actually like over a year and a half ago, I committed to putting out a podcast every single week. And if you are a diehard podcast listener, you know that this episode is not dropping when it was supposed to. It's supposed to drop on Wednesdays. I had a slip up over the holidays. One dropped on Thursday, but it is Saturday, January 11th at 10:11 p.m. I legit have less than 2 hours before my week is over. I didn't have a podcast. And it's not because I didn't have ideas. I have an entire book with outlines, with notes, with everything, with more than a dozen topics already planned. I even have done interviews that are going to be coming out over the next couple of months with some amazing industry peeps that I could have just put one of those up. And yet I didn't do it. So I had to ask myself why. Well, there is a piece of it where, you know, this is the week that LA is burning. This is the week that as Canadians, we are finding out what's happened with our government. This is the week where so much has happened. But if I was going to be honest and set my own ego aside, I would have to admit that I have resistance to the coaching I'm getting. And I've talked about it inside of my paid programs that I invested in my own coaching massively this year. Like the biggest investment I've ever made in my business, I am doing in 2025, like bar none, the biggest investment. And so with that is coming a lot of nudging, pushing, kicking the ass, quite frankly. But that's what I signed up for. That's why I invested in it. And, you know, as much as I was like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is everything I'm looking for. With it comes a great deal of resistance. And actually, with this particular program, it is one main mentor. But then within his program, I think there's like 9 other coaches. So I've been attending coaching calls multiple times a week to kind of get a feel for which of the coaches I really connect with so that I can make sure that I'm getting the best I can. Spoiler, I'm connecting with all of them, which is fantastic. But at the same time, too, I'm learning so much about myself. And, you know, and I love it because things come to you from different places. I was listening to a podcast the other day, entirely different company, entirely different mentors, everything else. And the guy on there said, I don't hire people for leadership if when I ask them what leadership books have you read lately, they don't have any. Because he said, if you are not growing as a human, you are not going to grow as a leader or in business. And that is so incredibly true. I have worked on myself as much or more than I've worked on my business, because there is a reality to the fact of your business cannot outgrow your personal beliefs, your personal limitations, because you are the business. And so if you don't grow and expand who you are as a human, your business can only go so far. So there's there's been a lot of resistance this week. One of the coaches last week talked about um, the way that she recognizes it. And in her world, she knows that she's come up against resistance when she starts procrastinating. And I will have to admit that earlier today, when I took down the Christmas tree, yeah, that was what I was doing. And the irony is that one, I despise cleaning. Like, I did up a bingo sheet, which is inside of our free Facebook group. If you want the template for it, I'm chasing a squirrel for a second here. I did up a template in Canva, and it's like the 2025 bingo card. And there's some things on there, but you can go in and change them, do them for yourself. I changed it out, did it all for myself. I've got business goals on there. I have personal goals on there. I have debt repayment goals on there. I have health goals, just a whole variety of things. But I told my husband that when I get the first line, I'm hiring somebody to deep clean, like spring clean our house. And when I get 2 lines, she's coming every 2 weeks. And when I get 3 lines, I'm hiring her every single week. That's how much I despise cleaning. That is like my big reward, is to be able to do that. And so when I recognized that I was taking down the Christmas tree earlier, because again, normally we go into a standoff where I despise having to take down the Christmas tree. I don't know what it is. And my husband knows that. So at some point he usually gets around to taking it down. But in fairness, our tree has been up until like the middle of February in past. But I took it down. Like, that's how much I could see that I was putting things off, that clearly I was avoiding something. And I think for me, it was, in fact, doing the podcast. It's doing the things that I know I need to do. And I love recording the podcast for you. I love being able to connect with you and share these stories. But also, too, when you send me messages through Instagram, or you come into the Facebook group and you tell us about, I was listening to this podcast and oh my goodness, this is the nugget I got out of it. I love that, because that's why I do it. Some people will say I do it because I love to talk. Maybe not entirely wrong, but ultimately I love to do it because I get to share with you and I get to connect with you. And I love to hear the nuggets and the ahas that you get out of it. I love that when I get a one-to-one client who, when we're doing a sales call, I will say to them, okay, so just so you know, like, I am going to be here to cheer you on. And sorry, another squirrel here. One of the coaches last week said, I'm not your cheerleader, but I'm your champion. I will champion you to the all the way. And I'm like, ooh, I love that. So I'm going to start using that one. I am not going to be your cheerleader, but I am definitely going to be your champion. I am going to champion you along and get you where you need to go. But I'm also going to nudge you and push you and other such. And I remember this one, she's like, girl, I listen to your podcast. I know that you're going to kick me in the butt. And I love that, because we already have that relationship built before we go into a situation where you're paying me to go even further. And, it's really weird that it showed up as a resistance to not want to do the podcast this week. So my question for you is, how's that showing up for you? What is it in your business that you either know you need to do, or possibly it's even something you want to do, but you're not? I know a lot of travel advisors, when they're early on in their career, they get inquiries, and as excited as they are to get out there and get the inquiry and this, that, the other, they don't necessarily want to push the people all the way through the pipeline, because, well, once they say yes and once they're booked, they don't have anything coming from the other side. So that's a common thing in sales. They'll slow it down, because so long as they're still in the conversation, so long as they're still in the booking process, so long as they're still got something possible coming in, they don't have to face the fact that they don't have the next one coming already. That's why we need to build out your pipeline, so that you have people coming in to fill the back of your sales funnel as they're going out the other end of it. We want to make sure that that pipeline is going. But the question is, how committed are you? I'm not going to lie. I genuinely debated just saying, nobody's going to notice. But how is that different from an addict? How is that different from one drink's not going to hurt? Eating this piece of chocolate's not bad for me. I can just have one cigarette. I can just take one line. Like, I can just skip it this one time. Nobody will notice. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, I can handle it. See, when you let that momentum go, it totally changes things. I have a walking streak on my Fitbit, and I am I love that the laughter came out versus the word. I am terrified that my Fitbit's going to die soon because I have so many days built up in my streak. And when I get a new Fitbit, it's going to reset it. And I know just from my own personality, am I going to have that same drive to keep it going? Because to keep that steps going, when you have 150 consecutive days, it's a lot easier to get 151. But when you reset it and you're back at day one, you know what? We'll start Monday. How many times have you said that? I'll start Monday. Maybe we're talking about getting your social media, posting every single day. I'll start Monday. I'll start on the 1st. I'll start next week. But how committed are you? Because if you were genuinely committed, what's stopping you from doing it today? What's stopping it? What's stopping you from just doing the dang thing? You know what? Tonight, as I was sitting upstairs, after having taken down my Christmas tree, after having gotten all my steps in, after having done this, that, the other, watching the clock click down. I have been watching the clock for more than 4 hours. And instead of just recording the podcast, I watch the clock and I'm like, oh, but there's only 6 hours left. There's only 5 hours left. There's only 4 hours left. There's only 3 hours left. And oh my goodness, the house is too noisy. The house is too this. The house is too that. I can't do it. So many stories. Those are all symptoms. They're not actually the problem. The problem is all the BS, all the freaking BS that I have told myself, all the things that are standing between me and what I want. I am totally capable of doing it. I am totally capable of recording a podcast. Heck, I could have just sat down at this and just riffed on something. I didn't even need to make out the outline. I did though. But it was all the BS. I definitely don't lack in topics. Like I said, I have more than a dozen episodes written out already. Yeah, I had to start over on this podcast because the dogs decided they were going to be in my office while I recorded, and the one decided it was time to groom himself, and he made some horrifying noises, so he got kicked out. He needed to leave. The other one is groaning underneath my desk. So if that picks up on the microphone, my apologies. It is a dog grunting that she's trying to get more comfortable while she's sleeping. These are all things I could have just said. See, that's why it's not going to work. That's why I can't do it. I knew I could give myself permission, but then I would have to admit I'm not actually that committed. And damn it, I am committed to keeping this going because I don't want to start over at day one again. I will do that if I have to. But why would I when I know that I can just do it? See, I had a huge long walking streak going a couple of years ago. And one night I missed it. Realized at 12 o'clock midnight, I had missed my step count by 8 steps and my streak started over at 1. And it took me a couple of years to get going on a solid streak again. In some ways, I'm almost hesitant to talk about the fact that I have this big, long streak going again because I don't want that added pressure. I don't want that external thing coming for me. But I'm committed to doing it. There's a lot that's coming up for me in this. And And definitely send me a message on Instagram or come join us over in the Facebook group if this is connecting with you too, because maybe this is just an episode for me. I don't know. One of the things that my coach, when we did a big call the other day, is that he said, let the goal define the plan. Because this was really getting us all set up for 2025. And I should say, like, the group I'm with, we are all coaches of some form, business, love, life, like investment, like all different sorts. So we all have digital online programming and other such. So it's not that we're all from one industry or that we all have the same kind of client or anything, yet it was such a universal thing. But he said, let the goal define the plan. If you don't like the plan, change the goal. And that was so simple, yet so freaking profound, because I have goals. And then one goal that sticks in my head, I have no idea where it came from. It was something that came kind of in the silence. I have no idea how it got here. I have no idea how I'm getting there. And that's okay. But in the short term, I'm going to set myself up with little goals. And those little goals take a plan. Part of that plan is putting out a freaking podcast every week. And I don't want to change the goal. So therefore, I can't change the plan. Resistance when you are growing is like a fork in the road. You have two options. You can either hide, which, as I said to a friend of mine earlier this week, I said, I think what I've realized is when they talk about your fight or flight responses, I have been a fighter my entire career. And in this last couple of years, my nervous system has just been shot. And instead of being a fighter, I've turned into a flight. And, or like that, my desire to flee has been very high. And so while I am going through this massive personal growth, the instinct that I'm having is to crawl into my bed and pull the covers over my head. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but that's how it feels sometimes. That being said, I was chatting with somebody yesterday and I told her, I said, this is where I'm at. It's actually my acupuncturist. And because we're working on, stress and anxieties and things like that. And she said to me, she goes, because I said to her, I said, I'm coming up against this resistance, but I know I need to push through because something freaking amazing is on the other side. And she goes, and that's why you're supposed to be a business owner. Because she goes, I don't want to be a business owner because when I hear that, that makes my skin crawl. When I have resistance, I don't want any part of that. And so we had quite a long conversation about that. And actually, I may end up doing a whole podcast episode just kind of where that conversation took me. But that is part of it, is that you don't just automatically go, oh my goodness, look how much growth I've had. Look how much I've personally grown and everything else. And yeah, a lot of the growth is going to take place when you're not paying attention. But I also want you to recognize when you come up with resistance, because there's a little part of you that has to be left behind in order for a new part of you to grow. When we look at a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, they have to leave, like they build their cocoon and then they bust out of the cocoon. The cocoon gets left behind. The cocoon was the safe protector until it was ready to become a butterfly. They have to leave that cocoon behind. When a snake gets a new skin, it leaves the old one behind. It's given itself a new skin. It's growing this new skin. I'm not a snake person, so I don't really know all the biology of it. All I know is one gets left behind. You have to leave a little piece of yourself behind in order for the new part of you to grow. I am not the same person I was when I opened my travel agency. I am definitely not the same person that I was when I applied for the ad to go work at a travel agency, but I didn't even know it was a travel agency I was applying for. I'm not the same person I was when I closed my travel agency. I'm not the same person I was even 6 months ago. And that excites me. Yes, so much of me is there, but I've grown. And every time you want to let something in, you have to let go of something in order to make room. Because if you don't let go of it, there's no room to let in something new. If you're feeling resistance, I want you to get really aware to what it is that you're resisting. Is it showing up on camera? Are you having resistance to being seen? Why? Are you scared somebody's going to judge you? Are you scared that they're not going to judge you? That could be equally as big of a concern. Oh my goodness, what if they don't even take the energy to judge me, that I'm just not there at all? You're not alone if that's how you're feeling. Are you not showing up because you think you still have 20 pounds to lose before you can get on camera? Or that you have to have your hair done, or this or that, or who knows what it is? What are you having resistance to? Maybe it's because you don't think you know enough. Guess what? You are in the travel industry. I am here to tell you, you are never going to know it all. So just get out there. It is impossible to know it all in travel. The world is constantly changing. And with that means everything about your job is constantly going to change. What are you hiding from? What are you procrastinating? I actually, that was something, not that I was a cleaner, but I was a procrastinator for sure. This procrastinating thing is new. Like taking down the Christmas tree as opposed to doing stuff is new. But my husband used to say to me, he's like, "What are you avoiding?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, you are so procrastinating. What are you avoiding?" You've got to be willing to admit that to yourself. What are you avoiding? What do you need to be doing? Because as much as that can build up inside of you, and you're like, "Oh, I just don't want to, I just don't want to, I just don't want to." What if it's only like a 5 or 10, or in this case, it'll probably be like a 30-minute job to get it done, and then you're free. When I went through my book tonight, because I'm like, no, I am doing a podcast come hell or high water. It is going out tonight. And I looked at all the podcasts. I'm like, oh no, that's for next week. Oh no. Oh, I want to do that one in the middle of January. Oh, I want to do that one at the end of January. It's not that I lacked podcasts to record. They just weren't the right one. So what are you committed to doing? How committed are you to what you are building? How committed are you to enjoying what you do? If you don't love it, I'm going to say this might not be the right career. Because ultimately, when you are building a business, you want to be building something you enjoy. It's not always easy. It is not always fun. But on the whole, is it something you enjoy? Because to build a business of something that makes you miserable sounds horrifying. But building a business in something that lights you up, that excites you, is just magnetic. I have talked many times that I am so freaking lucky because I loved my career as a travel advisor. I freaking loved it. And the only thing I love more than being a travel advisor is being a business coach for travel advisors. And so I was telling somebody that it breaks my heart that so many people never find the career they love, because I have been so freaking lucky to not have one career I love, but that I have had 2 careers that I absolutely love. And I feel like the luckiest freaking person on the planet. And yet, even with that, I have moments of resistance. I have moments where I'm like, I don't know what's waiting for me on the other side. They all talk about jump and the net will appear. I love the idea that the net will appear. but I kind of need a little bit of an assurance that it's going to be there so that I can take bigger leaps and bigger jumps and bigger risks. What are you committed to doing? What are you committed to? How committed are you? Because just to do this when you feel like it, just to sell travel, in amongst here and there, I don't think that's enough. You own a travel business. You need to be able to market your business. You need to be able to do sales calls within your business. You need to be able to do all the things that are going to drive the customer journey so that your clients enjoy working with you, so that they refer you over and over and over again, so that you can work with amazing people just like them. It takes energy. It takes effort. What are you committed to doing? It's very possible you can do it as a side hustle, do it in the cracks and other such. But then you're also going to be giving up some other things. So the question I'm really and truly going to challenge you with this week is, how committed are you? What are you willing to let go to let in? And then I want you to ask yourself, what's possible? What's possible for you? Not necessarily what's realistic or what's going to happen right now, but what's possible. I will be completely honest in telling you that the goal that is on the top of my bingo chart, or on the top of my bingo card, I have zero knowledge of how I'm getting there. Zero. Zilch. No clue. And yet when that number came to me, it came with such clarity and a knowing that I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Why can't I? Totally possible. So until we chat next week, because we will be back on schedule next week, I want you just to ask yourself, how committed are you? Until next week, happy selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode.